Hello and good afternoon to everyone, and thank you for joining ARC's weekly Fireside Chat. This week, we're going to address the recent backlash to the changes CDCR made to good conduct credits. Listen to that word, good conduct credits, and the use of the violent, nonviolent dichotomy used to describe people by their convictions as seen in recent news media stories. With me are my amazing colleagues, and I'd like to introduce each of them shortly. I just want you to think for a minute about the terminology and the use of violent offenders. That's not what I use. So just think about that, because we're going to do a deep delve into this. But first, I want to introduce Norma Kupian, who is our Associate Director of our Women's and Non-Binary Department. Jacob Brevard, who's our Associate Director of Inside Programs, and the amazing Cesar Zuniga, ARC's Hope and Redemption Life Coach. Norma, take a minute to introduce yourself and how are you doing today, and tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing.
Hi, my name is Norma Kumpian. Thank you, Sam. I am in the Women and Non-Binary Department, and what we do is support the women and non-binary folks coming home from our prisons and who are in our community. And happy to be here today.
Thank you, Norma. Jacob, could you take a minute to introduce yourself? How are you doing? And tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing lately. Rookie mistake, you're muted, Jacob.
I apologize. My name is Jacob Brevard, and as Sam told you guys, I'm the Associate Director of Inside Programs for the Anti-Recidivism Coalition, also known as ARC. What we do is provide programming capabilities for guys to empower themselves to take control of their lives and regain their freedom and get back in the community.
Thank you, Jacob. Cesar, welcome to the show, man. How are you doing today? And tell us a little bit about the work that you've been doing lately.
Thank you, Sam. I'm happy to be here. My name is Cesar Zuniga. I'm part of the Hope and Redemption team / Second Chance Apprenticeship Program. Because of COVID, I've been splitting time with these two departments, something that I enjoy very, very much, being able to get the men and women that have been coming home and put them through the Second Chance Apprenticeship Program for an opportunity at a union job. That's great. And with the Hope and Redemption team now working at Lancaster with the insult packets, making sure our guys stay busy and continue to do the work.
Thank you so much, Cesar. Thank you. So for our audience that's listening, one of the things that I want to frame for you is all four of us on this panel did life sentences. All of us were in the Department of Corrections. And if we were in the Department of Corrections right now, we would be considered violent offenders. That's what would be categorized based on a commitment offense that's decades old. Regardless of how much we changed, if we were inside, we would just be simply violent offenders. Mm-hmm. The same way the DAs categorize everyone else that are inside right now. Regardless of what changes you made or how far you had come or become as a human being, you're still nothing more than a sum of your conviction based on what DAs are saying right now and the pushback. I want to frame something else for you too. One of the things that the DAs are saying about CDCR's new regulations is that it's going to let people out early. It's not going to it may advance your release date, but you have to earn that. And there are a number of different ways of earning it. And I just want to lay this out so that people understand you don't just walk into prison and be like, okay, you get to walk out tomorrow. There are different types of earning credits, including milestones for completing certain programs, rehabilitative achievement credits for self-help and public service activities. You have to go through these programs and earn these credits. EMCs or educational merit credits for completion of approved academic programs. If you study the research, people who advance in their post-secondary education are least likely to reoffend. That's a fact, by the way. ECCs or extraordinary conduct credits for performing heroic acts or providing exceptional assistance in maintaining security. All of these credits can be forfeited if you get a disciplinary, if you get written up, if you get in trouble. All of these credits can be gotten rid of. So it's on the individual to, one, participate, and two, not get in trouble. All of these are things that my colleagues and I have done. And that's why we're home right now today. That's why we're doing the work in our communities today. That's why we're able to help people the way we do today. We're just a reflection of the thousands of people that are inside prisons. We had the opportunity and we were given a chance. So I want to lay that out for our audience to be able to take a look. And when you say violent offenders, if everyone that committed a violent act in prison should not be considered for release, then maybe they need to put me in cuffs right now today and send me back. That's a fact. Because if I was not given a chance over 10 years ago, I would not be able to do this work today. And with that, I want to ask Norma, Jacob, and Caesar, when talking about justice-involved people, there's a tendency to break people up into these groups: violent offenders and non-violent offenders. This is not our language. We don't use this type of language, but this is the language that's being used. So breaking people up into these groups, my question to you all is, why is this harmful? And we'll start with Norma.
Thanks, Sam. And thank you for breaking it down for everyone on our show who may not understand what the difference is and what we've really had to work on to be able to get to this part in our lives. But when I hear violent offender versus nonviolent offender, I think that it's simply not true. And it seems to me that politicians and other people in the media are using these terms, and they're using nonviolent versus violent to say that some people are more worthy of redemption than others, when we all who have done about 20 years ish, all of us, we know that that's simply not true.
Thank you, Norma. Same question to you, Caesar.
Thank you, Sam. Yeah, like Norma said, putting us in categories and saying that some are better than others, it's very harmful for all of us, especially for our community, because they don't know about the work that's being done inside with these men and women. They don't know about the rehabilitation. They don't come out here with patches on their shirts saying, oh, I took this group, I took that group. This is how I've worked on whatever issues that I've had. So it's extremely harmful. And I believe that if you've done the work, you should have that opportunity to come home, no matter what category.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Caesar. And to you, Jacob, why breaking people into these categories, why is that harmful? I was about to say.
I think that anytime you use language to marginalize a community, it's a problem. And we've seen that throughout history with terms like the N-word or calling derogatory terms for different races or whatever it may be. And I see the same thing here. It's a way of getting people to marginalize a certain group of people and not look at them as human beings, but to objectify them by an action they took when they were younger.
Absolutely. Great point. Thank you, Jacob. I want to point something else out. So it's obvious to me, I think, that the DAs have not read the regulations. And here's a few other facts that I just want to point out. So this regulation has went into effect May 1st. So people can earn that additional time off. However, there will be public comment, and right now it's temporarily in place. And there will be public comment, and I promise you, I will be there to give public comment with the rest of our team to talk about why we should incentivize rehabilitative programming. I want to frame one other thing. In terms of life prisoners, there are now over 10,000 life prisoners that have been released from the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. For decades, we were required to get into programs and figure out how to create programs to work on whatever our issues were, whether it was Criminals and Gang Members Anonymous, anger management, alcohol, drug, whatever our issues were, we had to address them to understand what our causative factors were, what caused us to make the decisions that we made. And then we might have an opportunity to come home. And so for decades, we did this. Now, with over 10,000 lifers come home, think about these statistics. Lifers have a less than 1% recidivism rate in the first year and a less than 3% recidivism rate in the third year. Youthful offender parolees, or people that are paroled under the Youthful Offender Act, have a 0.9% recidivism rate. I'll put those statistics up against any country, any state. And it's because the rehabilitative programming that we've gone through. Proposition 57 incentivizes rehabilitation for everyone. And what that means is everyone now is focused on the internal work. And I say that because I want to frame this. We often talk about doing the work to come home. What does that mean, and why is it important? Caesar, I want to go to you first, please.
Can you repeat that question again, Sam?
So we often talk about doing the work while we're inside, doing the work to come home. What does that mean, and why is it important?
So thank you for that question. I've been looking forward to this one because so there's two parts of doing the works. I'm gonna use myself as an example. When I began doing the work, which is a self-help therapy, I was doing it because I believed that this is what the board wanted to see, right? It was an exchange for me to go in there, share what I've done, and then get my date and come home. And when I got my first 5-year denial, I realized that the commissioner pointed something out to me. He said, you have to do you're doing the external work, which is the outside. Now you have to work, like you have to internalize the work that you're doing. And I didn't know what that meant. But as I reached out to my peers, they told me that you have to live this. And that's something that, as part of the Hope and Redemption team that we do, is that we tell the men inside, whatever groups that you take, the rehabilitation groups that you take, you have to live them. Like I've always shared, CGA has been everything for me. This is what keeps me home, right? So I live through CGA. Others live through AVP. Others live through GOGI. Whatever groups that helps them become better citizens out here. And that's what the work means, the internal work, making sure you live.
Thank you, Caesar. Thank you. Norma, same question to you. We often talk about doing the work to come home. What does that mean, and why is it so important?
I think it's so important because, like what Caesar said, when you're incarcerated the way we were with the sentences that we had, the only way really out is through the inside out. Like you have to go in, you have to figure out what happened in my life. And that leads most of us to looking at our trauma, looking at what happened in our lives, how we tried to fix our trauma, like what we did to try to feel better. And when we were inside incarcerated, at least for me, in the women's prison, I was surrounded by people who were also deemed violent, who were my mentors and who accepted me and supported me on my journey of this self-discovery and dealing with who I really was and what happened in my situation and how I got to be where I am. And that resulted in part of the person that you see today.
Exactly. Thank you, Norma. And if you don't know Norma, please go on our website, read her bio. She's doing some amazing work across the state. Please recognize when we talk about redemption, rehabilitation, second chances, Norma is a living, breathing example of that. Jacob, same question to you, brother. We often talk about doing the work to come home. What does that mean, and why is it so important?
For me, doing the work is becoming the best version of yourself that you can be. And I think the programs gives us an opportunity to see that we have value as a person, as a human being, and it allows us to reach and to become that person. And when doing the work is just about getting yourself morally correct and being able to come out and socialize with people and be productive in society. And that's why the recidivism rate for people who go through those courses are so low.
And I want to re-emphasize that. That's why the recidivism rate for people who've done the work is so low. And so it's obvious that our district attorneys that are opposing this CDCR regulation, that are trying to recall George Gascon, doing all of these things, have not taken a moment to say, well, what does it take for a person to change? Is that possible? Can a person actually change? Because if they did, and I'm going to just say this, and if I get in trouble for it, I will just get in trouble for it. If they did their job completely, they would be able to answer these questions. They would go into institutions and they would see the human beings that have turned their lives around and have changed and become better people for it. But of course, instead we have a bunch of DAs that I think are all white, basically saying people of color should stay in prison.
Sam,
that's how I define it. Go ahead, Jacob.
It's funny to me because it's like We talk about so-called violent crimes or violent criminals, but we never talk about violent officers. We have officers that have committed violent acts for years, decades. They've got 20 years of complaints for violent acts, but they're never called violent. And it's so I really think it's a double standard, and it's a marginalized community that people can stand on. And so every time something goes wrong, they turn and say, "Oh, these people are violent; they don't need to get out." But there's violence out here every day, and it's being performed by people who are supposed to be protecting the citizens, and no one ever labels them as violent or nonviolent.
Agreed. And we just saw one convicted not long ago for killing the brother George Floyd. And that particular police officer also had charges and complaints. I believe it was a total of 18, but he's not a violent offender. He was able to serve on the police department until he finally murdered someone. But that's a different show. But the fact is, people can change. I want to ask you something. Speaking of doing the work to prepare people to come home, what is it that you get to see in prison through the work that you wish more people could know? Norma?
Inside prisons? Oh, I miss being inside prisons. Well, when you say that, I think about my friends that I left inside, and one of the things that I wish people would know is that I was incarcerated. It was during the 90s, and there were a lot. At first, people weren't coming in and out a lot. And then all of a sudden, they had these new policies. And so all of these women, they would just come back in, and they were coming back in and out. And I was young back then. I was like, what is going on? Like, you're such a sweetheart. You're such a nice person. Like, what happens? Like, why are you like here? I didn't understand then about, the system was really set up for people to fail. I didn't know that that the women were getting violated because they didn't want to go back to their abusers, and you're not allowed to move your home without, getting consent from your parole. And I remember one of the women said to me, one of my kids said to me, Norma, you get the best of us. You get to see the best of us. And I think about, that was like, I don't know how many years ago, but I think about that all the time, that I get to see I got to see the best of so many women, because they were free from abuse. They were free from trauma. They were away from their addiction. They were working on themselves. It was in this community of being supported, because we all had been there. We all had trauma. We all had been in that situation. So they didn't feel judged. They felt accepted, that they could say stuff like, you get the best of me. And so when I go back inside, and I'm surrounded in our groups with the women that will be potential ARC members, I think about that often, that I am so fortunate that I get to see the best of our community, where they're receiving programs, they're receiving services, they're part of a credible messenger, because we're going back there. We, the formerly incarcerated, are coming back and bringing services. So we're talking the talk. And that's what really brings me a lot of joy. And I really miss being able to go back in there. So I hope I answered your question.
Yeah.
I got excited.
You did, and thank you, Norma. You did, and that's one of the things we want to shine a spotlight on people that are incarcerated. Often, or all the time, judges sentence people, DAs prosecute people, police arrest people, but they never go back to see what happens to that person. Did that person change? Does that person have the ability to change? Have they worked on themselves? Or are they sorry for what they did? Are they doing anything positive? None of these questions come to mind. Instead of just lock them up, throw away the key, and forget about them. And then when a policy comes out, because we see the evidence that rehabilitation works, when a policy comes out that if you do more rehabilitation, you can earn additional credits, you get a bunch of DAs that don't go back into prison, that don't know anything about criminal justice reform, complaining and saying that this is wrong, and suing CDCR. And I would never have thought, just so we clear, and then I'm gonna go to Caesar and Jacob. I would never have thought I would be on any show defending CDCR or their policies. And here I am, because they're doing the right thing, and we have a bunch of DAs saying, no, we don't want you to have a rehabilitative program. We want you to stay in prison forever. We want Black and brown people to stay incarcerated. But Caesar, let me stay on topic because I will get on my soapbox real quick. Speaking of the work to prepare people to come on, what is it that you see in your work when you go inside those institutions? What is it that you see that you wish more people could know? Because you see it all the time when you go into institutions prior to the pandemic.
Yeah, one of the things that I would want people to know is that the men that come across my path in our Hope and Redemption Team groups are the kindest, most heartwarming men that you could think. Like, everybody sees prison as like all these hardcore criminals, but man, they're the nicest people. When they change and they've gone back to the person that they were intended to be when they came into this world. It's amazing to see that, where you just want to really wish that you had that magic wand where you could just open up the door for them so they can go back to their families, because they're the hardest working people, the most respectful people. A lot of them in there, they acquired that because of how it is in prison. It's all about respect, boundaries. So they have that. They open up the door for you, right? They're always asking, how we can help you, how can I assist you, and just seeing that, I wish people would know more about that, more about how the people that they are today, how they've changed, how they're no longer the gang member, the criminal. Now they're back to being the person that they were meant to be. And I just really wish that society could see that, so they wouldn't get labeled, or they would be frowned upon if they came home. Because I've always shared with them, I said, you coming home, your family is going to embrace you. They're going to love you. Your friends, they're going to embrace you. But society doesn't know the work that you're doing, doesn't know how much you've changed, how much rehabilitation has affected you. So you have to prove that. You have to prove that with your walk, by being of service, helping others. Whenever you do, give back, right? If your neighbor's grass is long and it's an old couple, volunteer to cut their grass for them. Like, take out their trash. Like, do something so when the society sees you, they won't see you as that same person that went to prison. They can see you as a person that has been rehabilitated and that has come home as a better person.
Great point, Caesar. Thank you. Jacob, same question to you. What is it that you see in your work inside prisons that you wish people could know?
I think the thing that I would stand on is transformation. I think that's what Norma and Caesar was talking about, to watch someone transform their lives. I had the pleasure of watching both you and Caesar make transformations while in prison, and turn from people who were selfish to people who were selfless. And I think when I see people change from their selfish ways and become about community and helping others to get better, not necessarily to get free, but to be better. I think that's the greatest thing that I get to witness in there. And also when people are reunited with their families, you have guys that they were making bad decisions when they were younger, and their family kind of like turned their back on them, and they transformed their lives and became better people, and the family came back. And to see a guy go out there and visit with his daughter after 20 years of not communicating with her, and letting that be the driving force for him to be a better person, I think is the most beautiful thing that I'll ever witness in life.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacob. And just from my perspective, going inside and watching the programs that we created and watching people come home, and even watching, like Jacob mentioned, both Caesar, Jacob, and I were all on the same yard at one time. In fact, me and Jacob used to think we were enemies until we finally figured out that we weren't. Caesar too. Now it's the same with Caesar. We now see each other as friends and brothers in this work. And Norma's definitely our sister. She's rolling with us absolutely 100%. But one of the things that I wish people could see is the hard look that we take at ourselves when we're working on this transformation. It's not easy. When you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, I did this act that is not me, and why did I do it? and then feeling the remorse in your heart and the need to change and trying to figure out, how do I change? It's not an easy road. It takes a lot of work. And people inside are doing that work. This is we're a reflection of that right now. There are only 4 of us, but we represent thousands. We represent thousands and thousands that have done this work and are doing this work. And so when we say that this work is not easy, it's not easy. And before I move on to the next question, I want to just say this. For the DAs that may see this show, come on our show. Let's talk about it. I have no problem with sitting with you. Come to our office. Let's sit down with people like us so you can understand that transformation is possible, that change is possible, that redemption is possible, that human beings can change if given the opportunity. Again, I want to go to you first. Norma, what does it mean for people to have the opportunity to come home?
For me, I know that for me personally, I was a lifer and like we talked about, and I, at the time, which I think all of us are in the same boat, there was no one going home. So nobody, it just wasn't a thing like it is today. None of us were. And so when we worked on ourselves, it was not because we were going to go home. It was because we needed it. We needed to figure this out. And so knowing that I hurt people and knowing that I'm responsible for hurt in people's lives, no matter what the reasons, no matter what my trauma, no matter what, I'm responsible for hurting other people. And I had to really take a look at that and figure out, where could I go from here? And I'm so grateful that I had such supportive people around me that I was able to figure that out and figure out how to live my life, always being mindful of that. And so when I was given a second chance to come home, I will never forget when I rolled up to CDCR and there was nothing, there was no service, there was nothing going on. And the way that I live my life now is that I know I've been given a second chance and I'm always going to use it for good. That I say I use my superpowers for good. So I only use my superpowers to do good. And I feel like that is a lot of us in this position that are called violent. A lot of us, we were able to look at that in the face, look at ourselves, come to terms with that, make amends, be sorry, be forgiven, and be an exemplary person, a human being in this world today. So I feel like I always do what's right. I don't go through life hurting folks, and I go through life giving back to the next person and lifting other people up. So that's what it means to me to be given a second chance. Grateful every damn day.
Thank you, Norma. I don't know if you saw that just now, but Audrey Marie says, "Don't stop, Norma." There you go, right there. Don't stop, Norma. Like continue down that path. Caesar, what does it mean to have an opportunity to come home?
It's to make things right. To make things right with your community that we once worked so hard to destroy, to make things right with our families or our victims, with everyone that was put on our path that we harmed. It's an opportunity at a second chance at life. You know, this is why I appreciate being also part of the Second Chance Apprenticeship Program, because we give men and women an opportunity for a career. You know, something that they never thought of. I remember as a youth, when I was part of the lifestyle that I was living, I never thought that I would live past 18 or 19 years old because I was full throttle, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of the men and women that were in prison never thought they would live for so long. Now that they're out of here, coming to our communities, now they have an opportunity to set them goals, right? Have those careers, you know, keep going, you know, go back to school, get those degrees, something that they never thought they would want because of the way they were living. So that's what it means to me to make things right with everyone out here.
Thank you, Caesar. Jacob, for you, what does it mean for people that have the opportunity to come home?
I think it really means a lot, and I heard a lot of this in Caesar's answers about the restitution and retribution. But I also think it's a driving force for people to be the best person that they could be. We have to remember that, or we get to remember that the Department of Corrections is the Department of Corrections. It's not a place for punishment. It's a place for people to rehabilitate themselves and become productive community members. And so giving people, incentivizing people to become the best version of themselves and have an opportunity to come out here and be an asset. I think that's what prison is about. Finding ways to motivate people to be the best version of themselves, and giving people the opportunity to come home is the most motivation that anyone can have to become a better person and give back that restitution and retribution for the crimes or the people's lives that they've hurted.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jacob. And I'll just chime in. To have the opportunity to come home means we have an opportunity to give back to our communities and make our communities safer and better. And that's literally what we do every day, by the way we live our life, by the work that we do, and by uplifting and helping others that are coming home. And it's not by mistake or chance. We're doing this intentionally. So understand that. I want to share something, and then I want your input. So 44 California DAs are suing the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation because of the rules that I've spoken of. In a statement announcing the lawsuit, they say allowing early release of the most dangerous criminals, shortening sentences as much as 50% impacts crime victims and creates a serious public safety risk. Sacramento District Attorney Anne Marie Schubert said in a statement announcing the lawsuit. Do you agree with this statement, and tell us why or why not? I'll start with you, Jacob.
I do not agree with that statement. Like, first of all, the DAs these are careers for these guys. And so the longer they put people away, the better off their career is. So they want to be able to go up and say, I put this murderer away for forever and for life. But really, the justice system is not about the act, it's about the person. And people may commit terrible acts, but that doesn't mean that they're a terrible person. And I think as a human being, it's our duty to not give up on people and give people an opportunity to be the best versions of themselves. So I think a lot of these DAs are just doing what they think is best politically or career-wise, and not really taking into the effect that the damage that they are causing to the family and communities by separating people and separating the power structure of the family, which is the parents, and putting them in prison.
Thank you, Jacob. Norma, the statement I read by the district attorneys, do you agree with the statement? Tell us why or why not.
I don't agree with the statement. Be honest, you were reading it and I was kind of like, yeah, I've heard this before, like a bunch of times. So I don't even know if the particulars, but I know that this doesn't speak to the facts of people who are incarcerated, who are able to receive services, that they can return to their community. I think just the four of us being here today speaks volumes to that. And I think that this isn't in any kind of this is just rhetoric. Sounds like somebody's, trying to run for office on something. That's what it sounds like to me.
Thank you, Norma. Caesar?
Yes, like my other two colleagues, I do not agree with the statement. I just want our audience and our, society to know, our communities, that everyone is getting screened. Everyone gets screened before they come home, and they see the work that they're doing. They're just not opening up the door for anybody. People are doing the work. I have never received so much mail in my life where people are asking for curriculums because they want to do the work, not because it's going to get them home early, but because they want to change. They're seeking change. They want help. They're seeking help. And even though a lot of these prisons that I get mail from, we don't serve, I was once there in their shoes. I was once asking for help. So I'm not going to turn my back on them. I'm going to help them as much as I can. And if that means it's going to be extra work for me, then so be it. I'm going to continue to send them curriculums. and I will review it and give them feedback. And when they complete it, they'll get their certificate. And just by the way they answer their questions, you know that these men have changed, that they have changed. So.
Thank you, Caesar. And just so you know, to our audience, that the way Caesar described, like doing everything we possibly can, even if it means we have to do extra work, organizationally, that's what we do. As individuals, that's what we do. Every one of us do that because we know what it means to be behind those walls. We know what it means to be in cages and be looked at as less than. I also want to add something else. So first of all, just to be clear, I don't agree with the statement. Second, part of it is a straight up lie. Yeah, I said lie. And I'll give you this because if you take the time, you can actually read the regulation. And no one that was convicted of a violent offense gets 50% credit off. So that's some bull crap that they said. So that's for non-violent second and third strikers. Read the regulation. At least you're a district attorney. Read the regulation and stop lying to people. It's just wrong to lie. Like, just keep it 100. Yeah, I went there. Literally, so people that are convicted of violent offenses get 33% off, not 50% off. People that were convicted of nonviolent get 50% off. So let's get it straight. And then at the top of the show, I talked about the different types of credits that you can earn, and also the fact that you can earn all of these credits. And if you get in trouble, if you get a write-up, a rules violation, all of those credits can literally be wiped away. So this is, again, in my opinion, a scare tactic of the district attorneys, trying to scare people and not stopping to say, can people change? If people can't change, then why am I sitting here running my mouth? Like, why are we on this? Like, why are we literally having this conversation? There are thousands of us out here that have changed our lives and that are giving back to our communities. So please stop with the false information to the public.
And also, Sam, also, like, you know, it's funny how they talk about CDCR releasing all these violent people, but yet they make deals that release violent criminals all the time. You have a guy that may have a shooting that, you know, they just want a conviction, so they'll plead down to a lesser charge that's non-violent that'll let him out. They're not concerned about violence. They're not concerned about non-violence. It's really a political move to keep people incarcerated because they believe it's the best thing for their career. It has nothing to do with non-violence and violence, because if it did, they wouldn't plead to lesser charges for violent criminals, as they term it.
Okay, just so we clear on the terminology uses there. So I want to switch to a different question, and I'm gonna come to you first, Norma. You often talk about building power for formerly and currently incarcerated people. What do you mean by that? And I'll come to you, Caesar, and Jacob next.
Yes. So, building power. I think that now is the time, even though I know we're on this talking about this statement, and there's been a lot of, you know, hoopla when they pull out this violent, nonviolent. But I think that right now is really the time for us to organize as formerly incarcerated people to build our power. There are enough of us now out here, like us, who not only are we doing well, what we've done is we've built like almost like a railroad system where we're helping other people. We're talking about putting people in jobs, putting people at the table. People at ARC are on boards. There's other formerly incarcerated people who are at those tables, who are speaking, who are in those positions now. Last year, or COVID, maybe it was 2 years ago, I don't know, we also won the right to vote while we're on parole. There's also a lot of our brothers and sisters have only been having to be on parole for a couple of years. So now is really that time for us to really organize and get together and put together our political power. Our time
is now.
Our time is now. And in our lifetime, we should see candidates who say, wait a minute, what do the formerly incarcerated say? Hold up. That's what we need. And we are still fighting. We still have a little bit to go. We have some great bills we're working on right now, but we are moving toward that. And also, people understand more now about the what comes with our shame, like people are understanding about addiction. People are understanding about trauma. People are understanding more about how people's lives, how these systems that they grew up in, these neighborhoods they were growing up in, or the racism that they had to live with, or the unfairness, or all of that. People are starting to understand that and understand how it can happen. Like all of us, like we all know these stories. The world is starting to know these stories. So the time is really now for us to really build our power and become an organization that people are like, wait a minute, what do the formerly incarcerated have to say about this?
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. And I want to just point something out. I don't know if anyone was paying attention to the news today. But the Senate voted today, I believe it was the Senate, voted today not to conduct the investigation into the January 6th incident where basically you had an insurrection. Like you have people that were trying to hang the vice president of the United States. The Republicans voted against having an investigation or a commission to study it. Why? Why would you vote against that? Like, why would you say no to that? We need to know what happened. We need to fully understand how we actually had people. Like, let me not even go there. The point that I want to make is this. It's clear that those representatives that voted against that commission are morally bankrupt, because I want to know what happened in that Capitol. I would like for a commission to study it so that it never happens again. No one's being held accountable for that. The people on this screen have been held accountable for our actions. We pay back to society, and we pay back every day something that we give forward. In our nation right now, we have some really corrupt leadership that needs to be considered. Why would you not want to know what happened and why? So just want to give you like an example. When we talk about leadership, when we talk about second chance, when we talk about redemption, when we talk about paying back what we did, that should go across the board. It shouldn't just be for people of color. Jacob or Cesar, would you like to talk about building power?
Sure. And I'll be quick. I think something that I preached a lot going back inside to the men is the way you build power is through education. You guys have so much time here in your hands that why not? Everything is free right now. I have never came across so many men with college degrees in my life, and so motivated for education that when they come into our meetings or our groups, that they tell me, man, I'm a class away from getting my AA in business or my AA in this, or and then when I come home, I'm going to continue and seeing them come home and telling me, hey, I'm enrolled in college, I'm going to get my bachelor's. Like I think that's what Norma was talking about, when they have all this education, when they're on the table, now they're on boards. Now that's how you build them. That's how you build it. That's how you get things done. That's how you change people. And I'm just, to me, is education is everything. So.
And to piggyback on that, Sam, I think the building of power comes through the building of character. And I think that's what a lot of these self-help groups, I call them character development groups, because I think it allows people to build their character and become a person that is going to hold itself accountable and put itself in a position to hold other people accountable and be productive in communities that we come from. And so these groups that we run, or these groups that are being presented, allows people to build their character and not accept unacceptable behavior. And I think that's where the power of the human being comes from, to make this educated and morally strengthened decisions.
I agree with you 100%. Education is a major factor when it comes to changing how people see the world, how they approach the world, but also we need to make sure that we continue with rehabilitative programs that directly address the issues that brought us to prison. Like Cesar spoke to Criminals and Gang Members Anonymous. whether it be NA or A or any of those groups that speak directly to the issue that the individual had when they went in. I also want to just give you a look at this from a money standpoint or from a fiscal standpoint. And I use myself as an example. For instance, to keep me in prison for 24 years, it cost about $70,000 to $80,000 a year. Multiply that by 24 years. Then multiply that by about 90,000. That's about how much it costs. Now imagine this. What is the return on investment if you invest in me while I'm inside? So now I'm out. I've been home 10 years. I no longer cost the state $80,000 a year. So multiply that by 10. And then you have to actually increase that because I have ailments like high blood pressure that because I'm African American or because it runs in my family. But the fact is, it costs money. And then add into that the taxes that I pay, the salary that I earn. What is the return on investment? Now, those are the tangible fiscal pieces. What about the impact that are not tangible? Mentoring young people, helping them turn their lives around. And let's multiply that by 10,000 because most of us that have come home are doing that. The four people on this panel are definitely doing that. So what is the fiscal impact on our communities? What is the public safety impact on our communities? So just want to put that out because when we talk about, again, there were violent offenders, 4 of us are sitting here, and obviously we're not violent offenders. We committed a violent act once upon a time, but we're not violent offenders. This may be our last question. So to each of you and to you first, Norma, what is the message to our incarcerated brothers and sisters and people? What is the message that we want to deliver as it relates to the rhetoric out here about people in prison? What do we want to convey to them, Norma?
That we are out here for them, that we will support them, that to be who you are, keep on doing what you're doing in there. And we're here from you, and there's other organizations, there's other opportunities out here, and we need you to come home, and we need you to be involved and become a leader in this movement alongside with us.
Thank you, Norma. Caesar, what is the message that we want to deliver to our people inside about this rhetoric right now that's going on with this lawsuit and this push against earned credits for doing the right thing, for behaving, for doing all the things that are necessary to become a better person?
That we're going to be here. We're going to continue fighting. That's why I'm wearing my fatigue today, to let them know that we're going to continue fighting for them till they all come home, every single one of them. And I just want to give a quick shout out to Ms. Blanco. She mentioned her son, Pablo, someone very familiar to us that we met and that has certainly has turned his life around. And I want to make sure that she hears us, that we know exactly who your son is and we know he's doing great. And congratulations when you talk to him.
Thank you for making that point, Cesar. And so just so you know, they're not here on the screen, but Mark and Joseph, who are 2 of our life coaches. To give you an example, matter of fact, real quick, to give you an example, Mark and Joseph come home, went through our Hope and Redemption program inside. They want to work for ARC. They did everything that they need to do. They get hired, and then they move to Crescent City, way up north by the Oregon border, so they can run programs inside Pelican Bay Prison, the only true supermax in the state of California. And now the culture in Pelican Bay is totally different. College graduations, it's transformed. And it's transformed because of formerly incarcerated people going inside. The institution allows us to go inside, to help people, to provide hope, redemption, and demonstrate that change is possible, and then to get people that are inside to follow that path. And it's not just Pelican Bay. Norma's doing this in CCWF and CIW. So this is something that we're trying to do across the state. The fact is that it is happening, and I don't see any DAs magnifying this. I see DAs trying to stop rehabilitative programming and incentivizing programs. I see DAs trying to actually create more unsafe public safety, because in order for me to come home truly changed, I need rehabilitative programming. Jacob, what is the message that we want to send to our people inside as it relates to this rhetoric out here?
The message that I would send to them is to continue to do the work, and don't worry about what's going on out here. The message for me is to be a better person and let whatever happens because of that happen. So like when I was making my change, it wasn't about getting out of prison. It was about becoming the best Jacob that I could be. And in return, I got out of prison. And I think that was true for most of us. And so I just want to encourage the guys to continue to work and know that there's people out here fighting for you, but you have to do your part, which is the work.
Thank you, Jacob. And I want to thank I want to thank each one of you, as you are my colleagues, and we work together and we see each other often and we see the work that we're doing. But I want to thank you. Oftentimes we might not get, in my opinion, we may not get the thanks and praise, but each one of you are doing incredible work. You show up and you show up for people. And I want you to know that I see that, and I want the whole world to see that. And so now, Norm, I want to go to you for closing thoughts for our audience, please.
Closing thoughts is I'll echo what people have been saying on this panel today, is that we just keep doing what we're doing. We don't listen to the rhetoric. We've been down this, we've been on this rodeo before. We've heard this all before. We keep being who we are. We keep showing up. We keep being leaders in this space so that our people will want to be leaders alongside us. Thank you.
Thank you, Norma. Jacob, last thoughts for our audience?
My last thoughts are that the system, we know that locking people up for extended period of times without any thought of rehabilitation does not work. We did it through the 90s and the early 2000s. We know that does not work. We know that rehabilitation does work. We look at the recidivism rates, and we also look at the drop in the prison population. So we know what works and what doesn't. So I just, my thing is, I don't understand why you don't support the stuff that work and you want to keep going back to things that don't. So that's really my closing statement right there.
Thank you, Jacob. Caesar, last thoughts for our audience?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you, Sam, for allowing me to giving me the space to share my views on this matter. And I just want to tell our audience and everyone out there that we're going to continue to fight for our guys, our men and women inside, to help them come home. And we're here for them. I've seen a lot of comments here where they're saying their family members would love to be involved. We're here. Let them know to write us. My name is Caesar. Direct it straight to me. Whatever curriculums that we can help them with, whatever prisons that they're in, I'll make sure that they get one, and we'll give them the feedback and the recognition for their accomplishments.
Thank you, Caesar. Before we close out, I want to make something really clear to our audience so that you understand. One, survivors of violent crime are important to us, and we want to hear their voices and want to make space for them, and we respect their laws, and we want to help them find healing. So this is not just a push for survivors of violent crimes, or people who've lost loved ones to violent crimes. They're in this too, and they're important to us. And so when we approach this work in a manner where we say we want a self-accountability. When you go to prison, the system is holding you accountable. There's a different level of accountability that each one of us going through where we hold ourselves accountable. And we do the internal work that we spoke of on this program today. And we work to become better people. And we find that compassion and remorse in our hearts, and we turn our lives around. And that's part of it. The other part is helping others heal where we've done the damage. So it's not like we're just saying everybody needs to, it's a get out of jail free card. That's not what we're saying. We're saying that these programs, this earned credit, this earned time is important. Incentivizing rehabilitative programs helps people address the issues that brought them to prison. It helps people turn their lives around. It helps them become the best versions of themselves. And the evidence is sitting right here on the screen. So I just want to make that clear. And in closing, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank these amazing human beings that joined, all of the people that shared their chats, and everyone that watches this, and know that we're doing this for the betterment of our communities and to heal our communities. We give back every single day. I want to thank you all again for joining, and come join us next week where we welcome our LGBTQ community members in honor of Pride Month. So same bat time, same bat channel next week. Take care. God bless and be safe.